much. And I want to go straight out front now to the Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. And Congressman, it's great to see you and to see you here in person. So look, the context of these nuclear threats is the latest U.S. intelligence assessment, which we've seen. You've obviously seen in much more detail in a classified sense. But what we've seen is a report assessing that Putin could use nukes due to an inability to achieve the decisive wins he needs in the Ukraine. That is very much on the table. Are you more concerned now that Putin could cross that line?
You know, I'm less concerned now. And the reason I'm less concerned is that, first of all, I think collectively the government believes that he would not use nuclear weapons unless he thought that his own survival, his own personal survival and his regime's survival was at stake. And we're obviously a long way from there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of reasons why he may be doing what he's doing right now. Of course, the French President Macron, weirdly, a couple of weeks ago said that we shouldn't rule out NATO troops on the ground. The man has an election coming up. Now, I don't think he's going to lose that election, but a pre-election, people say crazy things. Bottom line, when he was talking about using tactical nukes in Ukraine, I think he got some very strong messages from the two countries that are allowing him and his economy to survive, China and India, and those messages were pretty clear.
So when Alexei Navalny's wife, Yulia, says that election that you mentioned he's probably going to win, the inevitability, of course, of that he should not be recognized by the U.S. even as a leader. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's lots of, international law implications here and what that really means. But, the man's a murderer. The man is a gangster. The man has violated every tenet of international law and the United Nations Charter, Russia being a member of the Security Council in the United Nations. So, I'll tell you what we really need to do. And what's really important is that the Congress passed the supplemental package that allows the Ukrainians to continue to fight as well as they have up until the point where they started running out of ammunition. That's frankly on us, not on the Ukrainians.
And so you mentioned gangster, and that brings me to what Fed was reporting, that Alexei Navalny's former chief of staff struck by a hammer, tear-gassed last night outside his home in Lithuania. Is there any doubt in your mind who was behind that?
Well, I don't like to absolutely jump to conclusions without seeing the evidence, but come on, the only question is, how is it that he avoided falling out of a 7-story window?
That it could have been worse.
Right, it could have been worse.
And obviously in great seriousness, of course, could be in the future. I mean, we see this happen again and again. I want to ask you about two other things. First, the vote today on TikTok. It's significant. House overwhelmingly bipartisan, 352 to 65. I mean, I don't know when we've seen anything in this particular House like that, to ban TikTok unless it's spun off from its Chinese parent company. Now, I don't know what that really means once you've already, technologically owned something. Does that really change anything? But nonetheless, it was significant. It was bipartisan. Bill supporters say TikTok is a serious national security threat to the U.S. You've seen it banned in a lot of states from use in, state devices. But as a top Democrat on the Intel Committee, you voted against this.
Yep.
You voted against it. So tell me why.
Yeah, look, as the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, I have a pretty good and specific feel for what the Chinese threat is. I also know that while it is a very serious potential threat, meaning they could demand information from TikTok, personal information. By the way, they can buy that information, too. They can steal that information. They're pretty good at that.
I guess that's what I was saying.
We do worry that maybe in a moment of crisis, they would use that platform to try to insert messages. But here's why I voted no. First of all, it was enormously rushed. Secondly, when you say states have banned it, one state banned it, and the United States Federal District Court said you cannot ban it. There are First Amendment implications at stake. That's the state of Montana. So I am a very serious First Amendment person. And the notion that the United States, and I understand the risks, I really do, would say we are going to ban this venue for 150 million Americans to express themselves, to have political conversations. There may be a way to square that circle, but it doesn't happen in a 3-day legislative process that was constricted. And oh, by the way, remember, we tell countries, we tell Vladimir Putin, we tell the Chinese, we tell the Iranians, you shouldn't be shutting down newspapers, television stations, social media sites.
So you say you're being consistent. And
freedom of expression really matters.
All right, freedom of expression really matters. So I just want to ask you about this issue of what Don Lemon was talking about, right? He had a deal with X, formerly Twitter, Elon Musk, that would have amplified marketing support, all the things that happened with Tucker Carlson and X. And after this interview, Musk did not like it, and that has been canceled. Contract is canceled. What do you make of that? Not that specific, but of the power that Elon Musk has over who is heard in this country and whose voice is amplified to 250 million people every single day, 500 million people every single week.
Yeah, look, we live in a world where we have lots of media outlets. I'm sitting in one of them right now. We have Fox News, we have MSNBC, both of them with well-known editorial biases. You know, X's, Twitter's bias is not predictable because it's dependent on Elon Musk. But more than ever before, in our lifetimes or anybody's lifetimes, we have a choice of media. So I don't necessarily think that it is a problem that those different media outlets have different biases. It's up to us as citizens of a democracy, Aaron, to be critical consumers of that media, to be thoughtful about it. Look, if we don't take seriously...
But there's so much credulity out there. That's the thing.
Well, two things to say about that. Yeah. Yes, I was in the chamber on January 6th and came face to face with a lot of people who were absolutely convinced, all evidence to the contrary, that the election had been rigged. But I also want to be very careful because we can't decide that the American public is not capable of making their own choices. If we decide that, that will lead us toward away from democracy. Let's put it that way. So there are things that we can do, but we just need to make sure that Americans are better critical thinkers in the way they consume media.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Congressman. I appreciate the thoughtful conversation.
Thank you, Aaron.